For over a century, the Russian shipyards of St. Petersburg and Nikolayev hammered out the steel backbone of a superpower. Today, we're stripping back the rust and looking at every battleship ever birthed by the Russian bear, from the first iron slabs of the 1860s to the gargantuan, unfinished hulls of Stalin's ultimate navy. This is the heavy metal history of Russian firepower, starting at the dawn of the steam age with the early ironclads. These weren't the sleek predators we know today. They were floating batteries designed to survive a localized brawl. The Pervanets, a British-born prototype that showed the Tsar what iron could do. It was the spark, but the Russians wanted to build their own, the Neutron Mania, literally translated to "Don't touch me," made in the Baltic works. This was a coastal bully, slow, ugly, and wrapped in enough iron to make a forge jealous. It was a statement of intent. Russia would no longer rely on wooden walls. The Kreml, another St. Petersburg product, a basic ironclad meant to keep the Swedes and Germans honest in the Baltic. It wasn't a world beater, but it was a vital classroom for Russian engineers learning the dark art of naval metallurgy. Sevastopol and Petropavlovsk, the first real attempts at armored frigates. These were massive, sprawling projects built in the heart of St. Petersburg. They were the transition point, half sail, half steam, all iron. They proved that Russia could handle the logistical nightmare of a modern fleet. Petr Veliky, the first true Russian battleship. When she launched from Galerny Island, she was arguably the most powerful ship in the world. No sails, just pure coal-burning muscle and two massive turrets. She was the blueprint for everything that followed, a steel monster that put the Royal Navy on notice. Then, things got weird. The Popovka class, the Novgorod, and Vice-Admiral Popov. These weren't ships, they were floating dinner plates. Circular coastal battleships, built in Nikolayev to bypass treaty restrictions. In theory, they were stable gun platforms. In practice, firing the guns made the whole ship spin like a top, a literal nautical carousel that proved some ideas are better left on the drawing board. Moving into the 1880s, we enter the era of the pre-dreadnoughts. This was the golden age of imperial ambition. The Ekaterina II class, the Black Sea's heavy hitters. Ships like the Ekaterina II, Chesma, Sinop, and Georgy Pobedonosets. These were built with a unique triangular turret layout, designed to fire all guns forward during a charge. They were the apex predators of the south, built in Nikolayev and Sevastopol to dominate the Ottoman Empire. The Imperator Alexander II class, the Baltic's answer to the evolving naval threat, the Alexander II and the Nikolai I. They were hybrids, long-range cruisers, mixed with battleship armor, not the fastest, not the strongest, but reliable workhorses of a growing global fleet. Dvanad Apostolov, the 12 Apostles, a sleek, low-profile killer from the Nikolayev Admiralty. She was a specialized Black Sea brawler, designed to be hard to hit while carrying the punch of a much larger vessel. Navarine, known as the Three-Stacker. Built in St. Petersburg, she was the first Russian ship to adopt the classic four-gun turret layout that would define the era. She was solid, dependable, and a sign that Russian design was finally maturing into a standard. Tri-Sviatitelia, the Three Saints. A massive leap in displacement. She was a heavyweight boxer, thick-skinned, and carrying 12-inch guns that could crack open any fortress in the Mediterranean. Sovetsky Veliky, a troubled child of the new Admiralty Yard. She was plagued by construction delays and technical glitches, proving that rapid industrialization often comes with a steep learning curve. She was a cautionary tale in steel. The Petropavlovsk class. The Petropavlovsk, Poltava, and Sevastopol. These were the high water mark of the 1890s. They were balanced, well-armed, and built entirely in the yards of St. Petersburg. They represented the peak of Russian naval pride before the looming shadow of war. Rostislav, a small, compact battleship designed for the shallow waters of the Black Sea. She was the first to experiment with oil-fired boilers, a high-tech gamble that paved the way for the future of naval propulsion. The Peresvet class. The Peresvet, Osliabia, and Pobeda. These were battleship cruisers, Fast, long-ranged, but lightly armored. They were designed to hunt merchant ships and outrun what they couldn't outfight, a strategic gamble that would be tested in the fires of the Pacific. Kniaz Potemkin Tavrichesky, the most famous ship in the fleet, not for her guns, but for her crew, a Nikolayev-built masterpiece that became the symbol of the 1905 revolution. Beyond the politics, she was a formidable engine of war, the strongest ship in the Black Sea for a decade. Then came the foreign imports, the Retvizan from the USA and the Tsesarevich from France. These were the outsiders, brought in to teach the Russians new tricks in hull design and machinery. They were excellent ships, but they were the exceptions in a fleet of homegrown steel, the Borodino class. The tragic icons of the Russo-Japanese War, the Borodino, Alexander III, Knyaz Suvorov, Oriol, and Slava. These were beautiful, top-heavy, and ultimately doomed. Built in the frantic yards of St. Petersburg, they sailed halfway around the world, only to meet their end at the Battle of Tsushima. They were the ultimate sacrifice of the Imperial Navy. After the disaster of 1905, Russia had to rebuild from nothing. This led to the late pre-dreadnoughts, the Admiral Ushakov class, coastal defense ships, small, slow, but packing massive guns. The Ushakov, Seniavin, and Apraksin were designed to protect the Baltic shoreline. They were the old guard, fighting to the last against the Japanese, even when the odds were impossible. The Evstafi class, the Evstafi and Ioan Zlatust. Built in the Black Sea, these were the refined survivors. They took the lessons of Tsushima, better fire control, more armor, and applied them to the old pre-dreadnought hull. They were the ships that held the line against the German-flagged Goeben in World War I. The Andrei Pervozvany class. The Andrei Pervozvany and Imperator Pavel I, the missing link between the old world and the new. They were massive, lattice-masted giants that looked like nothing else in the fleet. They were obsolete the moment they launched, but they were the heavy lifters of the Baltic during the Great War. Then, the revolution in naval warfare arrived. The dreadnoughts, the Gangut class, Russia's first all-big-gun ships. The Gangut, Petropavlovsk, Poltava, and Sevastopol, designed with the help of Italian engineers but built entirely in St. Petersburg. They were long, low, and fast, carrying 12 12-inch guns in a unique linear arrangement. They were the Greyhounds of the Baltic, surviving 2 world wars and a revolution. The Imperatrica Maria class, the Black Sea dreadnoughts, the Maria, Ekaterina Velikaya, and Alexander III. These were the hammers of the south. They were heavier and more armored than the Ganguts, designed to ensure that no Ottoman or German ship could ever challenge Russian dominance of the Black Sea again. Imperator Nikolai I, the Lost Giant, launched in 1,916 inches Nikolayev. She was meant to be the ultimate expression of imperial power, but the revolution came, the money ran out, and the hull was left to rot. She was the tombstone of the Romanov Navy. Finally, we reached the Soviet era. The Bolsheviks inherited a rusted fleet, but Stalin had visions of a big ocean navy, the Sovetsky Soyuz class, Project 23. These were the Stalin's republics, the Sovetsky Soyuz, Sovetskaya Ukraina, Sovetskaya Russia, and Sovetskaya Belarusia. These were intended to be the largest battleships in the world, rivaling the Japanese Yamato, 65,000 tons of Soviet steel, armed with 16-inch guns. They were laid down in Leningrad, Nikolayev, and Molotovsk, but history had other plans. The Nazi invasion halted construction. The steel meant for the Sovetskaya Ukraina was captured by the Germans. The guns for the Sovetsky Soyuz ended up defending Leningrad from the shore. They were never finished ghosts of a superpower that tried to build the impossible. The Soviets finished the era operating foreign prizes, like the Arkhangelsk, a British veteran, and the Novorossiysk, an Italian war prize. But the age of the Russian battleship was over. From the spinning circular ships of the 1870s to the unfinished titans of the 1940s, the Russian battleship was a reflection of the nation itself. Ambitious, rugged, and often tragic, they were the heavy metal dreams of Tsars and commissars alike, built with Russian hands in Russian yards to defy the world. This was the era of the big guns. This was the story of the Russian battleship,